Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Wonderful, wonderful. So great to be here today. My name is Elinor, and I'm part of the leadership team for Startup Grind community in London. And that's alongside my day job, which is heading marketing events in international markets at WeWork. And so for me, personal brand is a topic that I'm extremely passionate about it, let's just say. And because my personal brand is something that I started working on I'd say 5 years ago, and it really helped me unlock opportunities, whether it's new jobs, new clients, new partners. So I'm very, very keen and excited to kind of share some of the things with you today. And I know it's kind of a buzzword, personal brand, and I know it sounds like a little bit of I would say vanity exercise, but actually there's so many founders that I speak to that for them, a client reached out to them and they closed the deal only thanks to a story that they saw online. So there is something here, and I have the best team here to share more about it. So I'll just introduce you by name, and then I'll give you a kind of a chance to talk a bit more about yourself. So we've got Christina here, who is the CEO of the brand Audit. We have Ore, who business development and partnership lead at TikTok Live. We've got Sarah, co-founder and CEO of Husmus. And we've got Tash, who is the founder and CEO of Sleep. And today we're going to talk about, first of all, what is a personal brand and what is a successful personal brand, and then about the mindset, because a lot of people, they know the tools, they know what they need to do, but the mindset is not there. They don't feel very comfortable talking about themselves, about what they do. So we're going to tackle that as well, and we're going to share as practical as possible best practices, whether it's on social media, content creation, how to balance our personal brand with our company brand, which is something I hear about a lot. So we try and make it as practical as possible. So thank you so much, and I want to give you already a round of applause for coming here and spending the evening with us. So I want to start with a very brief introduction. So if you don't mind just starting with 2 minutes introduction about yourself, about your company or the company that you work for, and also to tell me an unexpected professional outcome, I would say, from building your personal brand. Okay, so let's start with you, Christina.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. I'm Christina Minshull. I am the CEO of the Brand Audit, and my company specializes in helping CEOs, helping founders like yourselves, and helping executives build their personal brand strategies. And prior to building the Brand Audit about 4 years ago, I spent about 15 years on that corporate side. So when I'm building brands, I'm building them much in the same way that I built enterprise brands for Ernst & Young, for LinkedIn, and for WestJet. And for me, I have built my own personal brand as a founder, as a CEO. And I think the biggest impact to my business is that I don't have to do sales. In 4 years, I've not run a single ad. I've not had to go out and do any sales prospecting. I've not done any new business development. 100% of my revenue is attributed to building my personal brand, whether that be in real life like this, speaking at events, speaking at conferences, or online. I'm big on TikTok, and I'm also big on LinkedIn, and my client referrals. So I think that's the biggest impact that my personal brand has made for me is 100% of my revenue.
An unexpected outcome?
An unexpected outcome. Well, I think just the people I meet. I get recognized in airports sometimes.
Oh, wow.
Which is weird because it's like I'm not that big on TikTok, but I have a niche community where people really come and tune in and really engage. And when they're fans, they really stick around. So I think that's unexpected is like I don't have a huge following, but like I still get recognized in like certain circles.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be huge. It just needs to be targeted.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. Ora?
Really nice to be here with you all. Good evening. My name is Ore Ade, and I am the Partnerships and Business Development Lead for TikTok Live. So very brief introduction into what my role entails. I work very closely with entrepreneurs, new founders, marketing agencies, and I help them build their personal brand and their business brand through live streaming, which is a very new concept for attraction, for authentic community engagement, and also just for global reach as well. So that's what my role entails. And in regards to a bit more about myself and an unexpected outcome that I experienced in life. So during COVID, I was one of the many people that found out that I'd like to create content as a hobby. So popped up my camera, I started doing a couple of skits and just relatable content, and I ended up growing my social media to over 25,000 followers across TikTok and Instagram. And I kid you not, the experience as a content creator is literally what I use to share feedback and coaching advice to the entrepreneurs and the business brands that I work with in TikTok Live today, because it's quite interesting when you are a bridge and you see both sides of the realities, one from a content creation perspective, but then another from supporting and building businesses, social media businesses from the ground up. Yeah.
Amazing. Unexpected outcome?
Ooh, I think I kind of put that in there already. Yeah.
Great.
Hello. So I also have a really naturally loud voice, so I'm always scared of microphones. So I'm Tash Grossman, so I'm the founder and CEO of Slip. Slip is a B2B retail technology software platform, so it's far less fun and glamorous than TikTok and social media. But essentially what we do as a business is we sell software to retailers to help them make better digital receipts, because today's digital receipts are like PDF invoices and they're really bad for customer data and engagement. I started the business after being stuck in Zara trying to return a pair of trousers, and they wouldn't let me return them because I'd lost my receipt. And I asked, surely this happens to customers everywhere all day, and then slowly uncovered that there's a huge data problem, and that was sexier to solve than customers losing their receipts. My kind of experience with this obviously is very B2B focused. So I'm selling to retailers and my buyers are all on LinkedIn, and we've adopted quite a strong strategy to me being the brand. So when people think of Slip, they should think of Tash, and when they think of Tash, they should think of Slip. So how do I use my voice and presence to do that? So I can go into a little bit of that later. I guess like a big unexpected outcome has been how many investors have discovered me through content that I'm not even putting out there for them. You know, we have quite a great series called Receipt of the Week, and I can explain a bit about that later, but the amount of investor inbound I've had off the back of that, because what they see is they see that your customers are engaging with you on your content on LinkedIn, which is social validation that what you're doing is good, and then they reach out to you and kind of want to be in and part of that. So I would say, yeah, I never thought how my personal brand could actually help me raise money as well as get clients.
Incredible. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tash. I'm actually going to jump on that one as the unexpected outcome, but first I'll introduce myself. I'm Sarah Vernier, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Husmus. We exist because everyday people struggle to get access to housing finance because of poor decision-making on the part of insurers and lenders. So what we've created is an embeddable AI agent that allows us to look at people's individual financial health using more inclusive methods to make sure that everybody can get the finance that they need in order to keep a roof over their heads. For me, personal brand has been a surprise. Someone said to me very early days when I was starting to think about Husmus, he said, you know what, Sarah, you're a very engaging person and people will buy from you. And at that time, I was like, piss off. Just no, I don't want to put myself out there. I'm, believe it or not, borderline introvert, extrovert. So I'm like, I'd rather just sit in my house and do my stuff. But actually, it's been a huge surprise that, yeah, actually, that guy was right. My strength is my voice and my presence. And therefore, it's brought me, surprisingly, like you said, investors, customers, and a lot of them has just been like, oh yeah, someone met you and said to me, I have to meet you and talk to you about this. And this is literally how I've managed to grow my business. So
Incredible. And if you didn't know, Husmus is a house mouse in Swedish, right?
that's correct.
You learned something new already. So just really to your point, I read the other day a research that said that more than 60, if not 70% of people tend to buy from companies and brands where they feel like they know the founder or they know the employees who work in that company. So there is that element of trust. And so I want to start with you, Christina. When we talk about personal brand, because you've obviously built your own, but you're also helping others build their own. So what do we really mean by personal brand? It's such a big word. Can you share a little bit and break it down for us, please?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of definitions out there. But the way I explain it to my clients is it's essentially just your reputation, kind of with a microphone, right? And it's both your reputation in online spaces as well as offline spaces. And it's a reputation that you don't control, right? You're not in control of your personal brand. Your audience is in control of your personal brand. So when I'm talking to founders, I'm saying, okay, put down the megaphone. Put down your broadcasting about your business. No one cares. No one cares about your products. No one cares about your successes. What people actually care about is their problems, right? So I say, take off that megaphone approach, put on your headphones, and actually listen to what your audience cares about, their pain points, their issues, and build your personal brand around helping them with that. And if any of you are marketers in the room, you know that to be true with enterprise brands, right? The minute an enterprise brand steps out there and is on social and they're talking all about themselves instead of talking about their audience, they've lost people. So it's the same thing with personal branding. And the stat that Eleanor is referring to is 77% of individuals are more likely to buy from a company if their CEO and founder is present. And 74% of tech investors, so VCs, if you're getting funding, actually see they see a founder not investing in their personal brand or on social as a red flag. So those two stats really hit home why it's really important for CEOs and founders to be present on social. It's no longer a nice to have, it's a must have. You can't be behind the scenes as a founder anymore. You are the face of your brand and people buy from people.
Amazing, thank you. And if we try and make it more kind of practical, I'd love to hear from you, Sarah, if I take you back to the early days. When you, maybe, I don't know if it was a conscious decision to start, being out there and kind of turning up the volume, what would you say the 3 steps you took to build a personal brand for yourself?
So for me, it was more unconscious. I didn't actually realize that was what I was doing. But I knew that I had to speak about my company to people. I knew that I had to engage with people. And I'm quite fortunate that it was a personal passion that brought me into this anyway. So thinking back on it, I think the first thing that I kind of did was like a self-audit, to be honest. It was like, Sarah, be real with yourself. What are you good at? What are you not so good at? Have that conversation and work out, are you better on voice? Are you better in video? Are you better with the written word? Is that, what kind of channels do you prefer or work well with your strengths? And then just research the competition. So what are people in your space doing? Where are your customers? What are they listening to and engaging with? And is that anything that you can add to? So that's point number 2. And then number 3, which was another one that I had to have a real talk with myself, is like, how much time can I give to this? Like, I'm like, okay, I'm not the kind of person, like, I mean, obviously, especially if it's not your day-to-day job to be like on social media, then as a CEO, you have so many other responsibilities. How much time can I carve out for this? How much time should I carve out for this? Can I afford not to carve out some time for this? And don't be apologetic about it. Like, this is, okay, I spend a day a week doing this, and the output is self-explanatory. So yeah, those are the three things, I think.
Amazing, thank you. And when we look at kind of company brand and your personal brand, I'm very curious to hear from you, Tash. How do you balance the two? And the other day I had a founder asking me, should I post from my personal profile on LinkedIn? Should I post from my company? So how do you balance the two?
Yeah, so I think it's different if you're talking about direct to consumer and B2C businesses versus B2B businesses. So my advice is going to be about B2B businesses. I think when you're building the early stages of a company, you have to remember your customers are absolutely not buying your product. And that's horrible to admit because you think your product's amazing. But I once heard my customers talking, and one of them literally said, like, yeah, the product's okay, but we're buying into Tash, like we're buying into what we know that we're going to give her feedback and she's going to keep building and make it better and she's going to keep evolving. And I think when you've realised that and you realise that actually your brand is something that customers buy into and that has to be built on two main things for me, which is thought leadership and trust. They need to know that they can trust you and that you are a trustworthy person to give their business to and to give a part of their product to. But I think that thought leadership piece is really important, that being associated with you or in your network is going to benefit them in both thought and their network as well. So I came today directly from a tech leaders conference in my industry, and this guy's probably held roles at more retailers than we've ever all been into, like Serial Networker, came up to me and was like, I actually had a question, you know this person, can you connect me? And I'm looking at them thinking, I am like a nobody. Like, how can I get to this person faster than you? But that just happens when you just spend so long trying to build the authority in the space. So for us, when we think about content, there's different content that's surfaced on my page versus our company page. And the idea is that the more people I have on my page and I'm subtly educating them about Slip, I can then invite them to follow the Slip page. And actually that's more impactful because then there's that association. So I'm actually going to hope it's okay that this is a bit of a debate. I'm actually going to a bit disagree with something Christina said about posting about your success, because I do it the whole time and it feels like the most awkward vanity thing. It's like, oh, look at me, I've won another award. Yeah. Oh, look at me, I've been in the news today.
I can't.
Oh, I love it. Like, I'm like all these random people writing these generic, congrats, Tash, well done. Like, yeah, you use the generic. But I think there is something about, and this is going to sound, maybe this will sound wrong, but I'm just going to be honest. It's like people like to be associated with successful people.
True.
It's a fact, right? And when we comment on each other's posts when we're doing well, it's like, oh, I know her. You know, we're both funded. You know, it's that association with success. So I, as a founder, definitely don't post enough about the days I'm sitting there crying, because I don't want anyone to know that I'm crying. I want them to know that I was in Forbes yesterday. So I actually think that when you're a founder and you're building that authority and thought leadership, especially B2B, post those successes every time you have a win. Because also I have customers that come up to me and they're like, oh my God, you're doing amazing. I'm like, I've literally not signed a customer for 3 months. But it's the association, because you're posting about all this amazing things. And I think there's a fine balance between that, like the vanity things of a personal brand versus actually running your business. But if that positive association with you and success leads to business, then all for it.
Absolutely. And just to add, because I was also working at LinkedIn before I started at WeWork, and there the emphasis was a lot about value. How do you drive value through content? So even if you're posting about successes, which you absolutely have the right to do, because I also claim it's not bragging if it's based on facts, then try and see if you can add value through your post, and maybe write about the process that took you to get to that award or who helped you in the way.
Yeah, and just to jump in on what Tasha said, like for me, cringe, can't, don't ask me what I did well. I'm like, just like too British on that score. I'm like, don't even look me in the eye. That kind of, but I have found a way to do that. And for me now, it's always comes with a personal story. Yeah. So for example, I might be saying that, oh look, have you seen me in this here magazine, newspaper? I'm in there. But what I will share with you is like, oh, how I was feeling that day, or something along the like. I think one of my top posts was me talking about how my pregnancy and delivery was such a shit show that I am astonished that I managed to grow the business in that time. It was a little bit of like okay, yeah, guess what? We've hit these milestones as a business, but what people might not have known behind the scenes was like, I was literally going through all of these like series of medical emergencies and still managed to do that. So for me, that's how I get past the cringe factor, is if I feel like, oh, I've shared something. And for me, it's like, I've let you know that it's okay to have those days because you could still boss it and you could still win.
Yeah, I think it's like when I think about those success things, you know, let's say there's a prospect that I've been chasing and I've like sent them follow-up emails or messages, and then they are scrolling on LinkedIn and they're like, oh shit, like that sounds good, that sounds like they're flying, I don't want to miss out, I don't want to be the last customer to get involved here. And then the amount of times where I'll post about a success and then these people that have honestly been ghosting me for 5-6 months will just pop back up, oh hi, it'd be really great to chat again. You know, it all links to that concept of people want to be associated with successful people. So it's this constant thing, and I think as women we do it a lot, but it's fake it till you make it.
There's honestly so much that's going around, and I think everyone has like their unique and individual truths, because I agree to what everyone has literally said on this panel, because looking at it from like the outside in and how TikTok like coaches and managers creators to build their personal brand, it's really down to your identity. And the first thing to understand is with identity, community exists, and different communities have different needs. Some want to hear about the successes and the wins because that's what resonates with them. Others want to hear about vulnerability and relatability because that's what relates with them. And the reason why, for example, TikTok Live, we're so focused on live streaming is because short form content is now quite oversaturated. A lot of different, we have copycats. I am an advocate for TikTok short form because LinkedIn, what's LinkedIn doing with short form content, please? Anywho, the whole point is because short form content is quite saturated now, a lot of businesses, marketers are using it for a very obvious channel, which is to convert into sales or to convert into get something out of a community. So when it comes down to the issue of trust, authenticity, should I listen to you because you just want something out of me, or will you provide value to me? Live streaming is a way where that it solves that answer and it breaks that barrier between can I trust someone versus can I not? But down to the point in regards to identity and relatability. Content, I really want to demystify the idea of focusing or building your personal brand through content, because what content is, it's literally just storytelling. And once you find, like you said, Sarah, the best way for you to express yourself, written format, stick to LinkedIn. LinkedIn Top Voice, like that's a thing. That is a marketing channel for yourself. Short form content, live streaming, whatever it might be, stick to that thing and you will find your community. You will find the people that are interested in what you're talking about. But something that you mentioned in regards to building your personal brand, and now the clients that you have, they buy into Tash, not necessarily Slip. That is so true. That is fact. Because when you are depending on where the industry that you're in, it can be quite competitive. But if you don't position yourself as a pioneer or as an authority within the space, then guess what? You are losing out on potential business. Because in this day and age, what I'm saying to everyone is personal brand is going to be the distincting factor as to whether you win business or you lose business. Because if no one knows your name, no one cares about your business. That's the world that we live in nowadays. So quite competitive, but yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I love all this conversation, and I just want to add on from my perspective also, when I post, for example, about successes or achievements, I often don't know actually who's facing similar challenges or is just behind me in their career journey. I get so many messages afterwards to say, can you help me perhaps, can you explain to me about how you got to this or how you got to that? And I see this almost as an obligation to then have a call and meet with those people. And so when you're posting about your achievements and successes, you really might inspire and help someone else. So see it as not just as a self-serving. And so I just want to go to you, Christina, because until now we spoke about what we should do. I'd love to know, what mistakes have you seen that people have done with their personal brand?
Yeah. So I think the number one mistake that I see is people approaching personal branding in a very short-term way, right? They're thinking about themselves, their successes, what's in it for them. And if we think in a more macro way, in that long-term way, in a more relational way on personal branding, that's where we're going to build sustainable brands. Otherwise, we're building transactional brands. And for me, working with clients, we're very cognizant of the conversations and the dialogues that we're starting with our customers and making sure that we're always putting them at the center, right? And I think that's a big mistake that people make. And you might see that initial short-term likes, that short-term engagement, those spikes, you might go viral. But if you're not constantly kind of thinking about your audience and putting them at the center, then you're eventually going to lose them. The other mistake I see is kind of like hiding behind their business. So founders will talk a lot about their products, they'll talk a lot about their launches, they'll talk about their successes, but they're not talking about kind of that vulnerable aspect of being a founder or being a CEO and the struggles that kind of take that person to get there. So when Sarah was talking about how she shared that is content that people do resonate with. They do want to see the human behind that CEO, behind that founder. And then I think a lot of people also, they focus on the wrong metrics when they're developing their personal brand. They're focusing on the followers, they're focusing on those engagement KPIs. And what you really want to be focused on is not that quantity of individuals that are following you, but really that quality, right? And sometimes those quality clients come out of the woodwork and they haven't even been liking or commenting on your content. So like a couple months ago, I got a $60K deal from an individual that said they'd been following me for 4 months, but I'd never seen them I'd never seen them engage, but had just been kind of what I call is LinkedIn lurking. So they lurk in the background. So I think like always kind of centering yourself in, okay, what is my true objective? How do I match that with my audience? And how do I focus on that long-term brand building to build a sustainable brand rather than a transactional brand?
Absolutely. And just double down on the social media side. I'm just really curious because TikTok and LinkedIn now is not just nice to have, right? It's really a growth engine and depends on the audience that you're trying to attract. Each one, I mean, choose the right one. But because we have Aura here, I'm really curious about TikTok and what strategies specifically you've seen that work for perhaps founders who are at the beginning of their journey or even, employees of companies who are at the beginning of their journey. Just really curious to hear.
No, yeah, really good question. So honestly, it varies. And the reason why it varies is because what business are you trying to build and what is the marketing funnel that you want to engage in. So I have a couple of founder friends that leverage TikTok for the sake of building their clientele, whether that's B2B or B2C. And their strategies are very different. So one of my founder friends runs a graduate recruitment company and he uses short form content to build up his B2C community because that is his leverage that he then used for the B2B sales as well. And recently I was scrolling on TikTok and I saw him live stream and I'm thinking, Steve, what are you doing? brother, what are you doing on live? But what he was doing, he was engaged in his B2C community. So sometimes using social media might not necessarily be for B2B clients. It will be to engage the community that you use as a leverage, because community is a model in itself, a business model in itself. But something else that we are seeing a lot of founders do. How many of you here know about Plant Made, Amma, the founder? Okay, quite a few. So I'm a Plant Made. She's a founder who runs a hair care company, and she blew up during COVID. And what she's recently done is she's leveraged TikTok to be vulnerable about her founder journey using short form content, but also live streaming content. And I call this age that we're in the golden age, because in the age of like AI and access to information and access to things like social media, a lot of Gen Zers and millennials are quite interested in becoming founders and entrepreneurs. And something that they're looking for is that relatability factor in regards to, so what is it really like? And if you are a founder who is like, you're willing to share a vulnerable journey as to what it's like building a business, live stream and share it. And a lot of founders are seeing success in doing that. Obviously, keeping some information to yourself, depending on how much you're willing to share. But what this does is it builds, again, that authentic community. It builds up a personal brand for yourself, because what you are doing in that moment is you are engaging in the spirit or in the mindset of trust. And if you can build trust with the community, you have no idea where that could take you as a founder, essentially. So live streaming and short form, but again, depending on what it is that your business is selling.
Great, thank you. And just thinking specifically about content creation, Tash, you touched a little bit about content. I just love to hear how you approach it, because there's tons of things you can write about. So how do you what's the framework that you use?
Yeah, so I think when I first started posting on LinkedIn, there was no actual framework. It was just kind of let's see what I can post about this week, with a kind of aim to post once a week if I could. And then there would go like a month where I'm like, I've got nothing exciting to share, so let's just stay silent. But we actually formalized it at the end of last year, where we split up our content into 3 buckets. So number 1 is around this kind of educate and humor, right? Which is, how can you bring the status quo to life in a humorous way, and don't sell, just like make out like you're laughing at the status quo. So one of the things we did is, this is quite recent, we went into a retailer and we timed how long it took us to get an email receipt in the traditional way. So I filmed my colleague typing it in, and it took 15 seconds. And then I go back into the office and I went, right, what can we do in 15 seconds? So we filmed ourselves making a human pyramid and making paper aeroplanes, and we made this whole jokey TikTok style video of like, what can you do in the same time of getting an e-receipt? And it was all like, no, like countdown music. And the whole purpose of that was just to make people laugh, right? And I think one of the mindsets is, all of our buyers, albeit they're on LinkedIn 9 to 5, they're on TikTok and Instagram in the evening. So how can we create content in the same way that they're seeing it in their free time? That's kind of one, which is around this engagement. Then there's the getting people bought into the company and what we're building. And then there's the like thought leadership angle. And I think what we try and do, so every fortnight I sit down with my team and we look at what we've got on for the fortnight coming, and we plan 2 weeks in advance around all the posts that we're going to do, with a minimum of 3 a week. And there are some weeks where I will like have something to post every day, and there are some where I will only have 2 things to post. So it does ebb and flow, and I think relevancy is important. But I will say there is absolutely no formula to what's going to make a successful post or not. And my most recent example, I was in New York, and one of Kiara, who works with me, was like, just do a post that you're in New York, like just take a selfie and just be like, oh, it's so nice to be in New York. I literally just took a selfie of me walking along some street in New York and was like, oh my God, I'm so grateful to be here. Like, how amazing that my business is growing. It was my best performing post impression wise, like way more than my fundraise by a country mile. It had like almost 200,000 impressions, 600 likes. Like, I've never had a post do so well. And I was like, this is so boring. Like, this isn't even funny. But I think that just proves that there's no winning formula. I've tried all of the posts at 9, posts at midday, posts on these days of the week. Like, there is absolutely no thing. So if you're trying to just like follow these guides, I honestly think for LinkedIn, there is no winning formula. I know they're pushing video content a lot as a platform. So we've tried to emphasize video. The one thing I will say is I never post without some form of media content. So I don't just post text anymore because it gets lost. So it always has an image, a video, or a PDF attachment to it. And if it doesn't, you can almost guarantee it won't get seen, because LinkedIn has massively boosted the amount of ads it's pushing. Like, as you're scrolling through LinkedIn, you'll see a lot more sponsored and promoted content, and they are all image driven. So if your post is just like a couple of lines of text, it will get completely lost. So everything has some form of image attached to it. And I think that comes into the whole people buying people, which is people want to see the face behind the name. They want to see the team. They want to see where you've been this week, what you've been doing. So yeah.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to provide like a contrarian approach to that specific strategy. So there is a way to be more formulaic in the way that you approach your personal brand and to be really data driven, right? So Tash is kind of going ad hoc, trying what works. If you're a founder and you're wanting to be like really precise and data driven about what social content you're putting out there, then a social management tool is like your best friend. So a lot of my clients will get them on a social management tool, and what we'll do is we'll look at the data of what types of content types are performing, what image versus video is performing. We'll look at specific days and times and how that's affecting certain parts of the funnel. So a lot of my clients are enterprise clients. They're working at brand awareness, consideration, and lead generation level, and they're putting out content at each different level. So then we're matching the objectives to that particular content. So there is a way to be kind of data driven in what you're doing. It just requires a little bit of software and a little bit of help to like help fuel that. And for me personally, I do have a partnership with Hootsuite. So I have their enterprise software, and in a year time, just like being very data driven in how I produce content, I went from having like a 4% to 6% engagement rate, and now I have between 12 and 14. So it does, like, you can do that ad hoc content approach, and I really encourage clients to try new things and experiment and see what's working. But it's also valuable to approach it from a scientific and data-driven perspective, where you're running A/B testing to actually see what the algorithm is going to pick up on.
Can I just very quickly add to that? If anyone here like overthinks or gets anxious about posting on social media, I heard something funny quite recently. It was set and forget. So kind of following on to what you're talking about, do it on a day that you know you're feeling confident, you're feeling high or whatever, and to get your content, put it into an automator, forget about it, and it'll just do the job for you. It'll do the job. You might need someone to engage in the comments though. But
No, like I actually do a hybrid approach because, hi, I'm Sarah, I'm a control freak. I love data. So I'm just like, okay, I need a system. I need to work it all out. And I schedule my things, and then randomly, to your point, Tash, it'll be the thing that I ad hoc picked up that day because I saw something in the news and it really made me annoyed. And so I just picked up my phone and I was like, and then that's the thing. And I was like, I scheduled all this stuff for like a month. Crickets. And then the random rant I did, the random post I did about that is then what people would pick up. So yeah, it's I like a little bit of a hybrid, but I'm with you on sometimes it's just like, okay, what do I post?
I think for me, it just comes down to like the purpose, right? If your personal brand is your business, then I completely agree, like put all the time in the world to it. But I have like 1 million other things to do. So this is, my personal brand is complementary to my business. I'd like to think my business would still exist. It may just not be as good without me doing it. So for me, it's very much a plan every 2 weeks. I'll spend an hour writing as much content in advance as possible, schedule it. But I might update those things as I'm going through the week, or like, but for me, it's complementary. As a founder, like I really don't think at the start anyway, you need to be spending money on it. Like I think just be authentic, write what's coming to mind and just give it a go. I think especially if you're using LinkedIn, I don't know anything about Meta or TikTok and how those algorithms work. But yeah, I also think it's just like you never know who's on LinkedIn at that time of day and who's going to see your content. There is a lot of data around like warming up your account. So about 10 minutes before you post, commenting on lots of things, and 10 minutes after you post, commenting on lots of things. But I mean, I rarely do that, and my posts do quite well. So yeah, I think it's like all of these things. You can get lost in data and science and try all these different things, but I think it just comes down to what your capacity is. My capacity is I block out an hour. That's all I have time for, and I'll do the ad hoc things when I have a minute.
Absolutely. And just to add about cadence of posting, because a lot of people ask me about like, how often should I post? How much should I post? There's no rule because everybody here is different, right? I could say I'm going to post now every day, but it's just not going to happen. So I'd rather commit to something like, let's say once a week or even once in 2 weeks, and just be consistent about it and show up as best as you can. Going back to what we said earlier about really driving value to your audience. That's really what it's all about, consistency and driving value. So I'd love to leave some room for questions from the audience, but just really to wrap up this discussion, I want to hear from each one of you. What is the one action that the people in the room should take tomorrow or even tonight if they want to start working and kind of amplifying their personal brand? Who wants to start?
I'll go first. Yeah, I'm going to say, like, it doesn't matter if one person likes it, 5 people like it, 100 people like it, do an introduction post. That people love it. It's like, hi, this is me. This is what I do. This is what I want to do. This is my favorite football team. This is what my favorite food is. I promise you, it's just like people like people. It's a really nice way. All you're doing is talking about the things that mean something to you, so there's no awkwardness in it. And I think you just have to do it. Like the first one is always the worst, and then once you get over it, but keep that consistency, make a commitment of like how often you're going to do it, and start with hi, my network. Some of you may be new, some of you may not be. Here are 5 things about me. And please don't get AI to write it because it's so obvious.
Such an important point. Such an important point.
Or if you do, if you're like stuck for ideas, get AI to suggest some things, but for God's sake, don't post as is. Make some changes, make some edits. I think from my point of view, just literally just do it. Like, it's all good. Like, if you're like me, it's super cringe, but just do it. And think of something that you're seriously passionate about that you could talk about all the time. And no matter how silly you think that thing is, there's somebody in the world. It's the beauty of the human race, is that there's somebody else in the world that cares about that other thing just as much as you do. So yeah, just find your topic and just...
Add one more thing about AI. Does anyone know about the double dash thing on ChatGPT? Because if I don't, I'm really going to, I've seen some nods. So basically, there's a way to know when a post has been written by GPT, and it's to do with this double dash concept. So when you're doing a dash on your keyboard, it's singular. And when AI has written it, it thickens. So you can easily see, and I've seen it. I've seen like some of the best brands in the world. They obviously, no one's told them. And they see it. I saw a cookbook today with loads of double dashes in it, and it removes you when you know it, that's written by AI. You'll now see it in so many posts. I once got told that by one of my clients. They were like paying loads for a consultancy, and they were like, I can't believe how much AI had written the deck because there were loads of double dashes. So now I've told you, you won't unsee it. But if you are going to get AI to improve what you wrote, so like there is a very possible thing that you can say to AI, I want to write a post about this. This is my tone of voice. This is it. Can you tidy it up for me? Fine. Make sure you remove the double dashes, because if someone knows, you're now, like anyone who didn't know about this is now not going to be able to unsee it, but it is everywhere. Like the best brands in the world are using it, and it's so embarrassing.
Yeah, the AI punctuation is not the best.
My advice would be to learn the platforms that you're operating within. So it's not just about the content that you're producing, but it's also about the context that you're operating within. And learn directly from the vendors. Like, no one knows TikTok like people that work at TikTok. No one knows LinkedIn like people that have worked at LinkedIn. Like, Eleanor can probably attest, like, we used to do like 25 hours of training on the platform every single month. And so when you're thinking about investing in your personal brand, follow the people that work at these companies or hire social media experts to help you understand the nuances. Otherwise, you're just going to end up kind of blaming the algorithm. You're going to say, well, wow, like LinkedIn is suppressing views and LinkedIn is doing this or TikTok is doing this. But what you're really not doing is taking accountability for your own personal brand. And you're not taking accountability to like learn those platforms and understand the nuances. And yeah, they're always changing. Ori knows this, working at TikTok, and we know that working at LinkedIn, they're always evolving, always changing. So hire people that know how to operate within those ecosystems and in that context.
Such a great tip. Just today, because I'm still following the head of product from LinkedIn, and just today I learned of a new feature that they have of integration with Calendly from premium subscribers. So absolutely, absolutely. Thank you.
Cool. So I actually have two. The first one is similar to what everyone has already said in terms of just like going for it and posting on LinkedIn, because sometimes you get that creative spark or that intuitive feeling like, I have a feeling this is going to bang. And one day I followed it because LinkedIn is obviously previously known as quite a professional corporate app, and now it's shifting to more like relatable and human-friendly content. So people are like doing a professional version of trolling on LinkedIn, but professionally. So there was, I was walking to the train station and I had this idea for a post, and ironically it was saying that social media is exhausting, post this, post that, engage this, engage that. Can we all just go outside and touch some grass? I was like, I could never post that. I ended up posting it, and it did incredibly well in terms of engagement and that humor piece as well. So the first thing is lead with your intuition. Don't be afraid to try new things and put yourself out there if you haven't done yet. Second thing is don't overthink short form content on apps like TikTok and Instagram. So leaning into one of my founder friends building a business, what she does is she will vlog her day in a life building her business, and she won't overthink the editing, because perfectionism sometimes can hinder you from actual growth. When you start posting, you become more familiar with the tools for effectiveness, efficiency that the apps have in place to help you repurpose across different things. And when you start things like short form content, you can then use AI to say, can you write this in a LinkedIn format for me? But then obviously like take out the double things. So yeah, don't overthink it and lead with intuition. Creativity exists in everyone.
Love that. And afterwards, we're all going to go and touch grass.
We're going to touch grass.
Great. So yeah, we can go now to questions from the audience. I'm sure there are plenty.
So, hi there, it was a great presentation, great to my panel, thank you so much. My question is about the stage at which you can start building your personal brand, because many of us founders are still working in day jobs and building in private. And it's kind of like, how do you navigate that, given the fact that, particularly on LinkedIn, where you don't want to get rumbled too quickly?
Can I ask a question before I give advice?
Sure.
Is your business that you're building at all in the same industry that you currently work in?
Not at all.
Okay, so if it was, I would say just post about the industry because you can still gain relevance. I think it's complex because most employment contracts, which most people don't know of big companies, state that anything you build whilst you work at that company belongs to them, right? It's actually in probably all of anyone's employment contracts. So you do have to be really careful about posting about your business if your company A, don't know, or B, haven't given you the authority to do it, because essentially they could say that business belongs to us because you can't prove that you've only been building it in your own time or whatever. So I would say, yeah, in my opinion, there's stuff that you can do. I wouldn't go too early in that sense. I would follow people that are, so you can start getting inspiration and building. But I think just from an employment law perspective, and there's a lawyer in the room who can probably validate this better than I can, like I would be really careful, because I've heard really bad horror stories of people posting what they're doing whilst they're working and then their company's getting really angry. So I would just be cautious.
Yeah. Just to add on to that, don't be afraid of building your personal brand in person and then like building that content in secret, because that content can still be used for when you actually leave the role and you can actually start sharing. So, yeah.
So this is like a common question that I get from my clients, because a lot of them are multiple founders. So they've founded a couple companies and then they're like on their third and they're like, we're building it in stealth mode, right? And so they're like, well, we can't go out there and talk about the company that we're building. But that's not what personal branding is about. Like, personal branding is not about your company. It's about you. It's about your values. It's about your experiences. It's about what you bring to the table for your audience, right? So you can talk about all of that, right? Without mentioning your company. But you seed it before you launch your company so that you build that following and you build that engagement, you build that dialogue and that connection so that once you launch, it's a no-brainer, right? That's where a lot of founders go wrong, is they wait till launch day. They wait till they're out in public. They wait till they're out of stealth mode, and then they're scrambling to try and build that personal brand. But if you start early to build that following, build that community around their pain points, around dialogues, that's where you're golden.
Thank you.
Hi, great conversation. I'm on LinkedIn with 30,000 followers. And my question, and I know, Eleanor, you already asked that question, should you post from your personal page or from a company page? But we didn't really get a clear answer, and whether that rule is different for LinkedIn versus TikTok versus Instagram. So I've never posted on TikTok or Instagram. I'm starting from scratch. And I'm hesitating, should I start with my personal account, my company account, or both? With LinkedIn, initially, I was posting the same post from my company account and my personal account. I changed that. I only post from my personal account and do a repost from my company page. So I'd love to hear the whole panel's thoughts about that. Thank you.
I'll start with TikTok and I'll hand over to you for LinkedIn. So regarding TikTok, I would start with, so you don't have any TikTok page right now. It doesn't exist. Okay. Start with your business account, because a business account can also be used as your personal branding leverage ultimately, because what business are you in?
B2B, sorry. It's a B2B, it's a platform for business connections and business referrals.
Okay. I would immediately start with a business account then, just because your market is B2B. So if it were like B2C leveraging for B2B, then I would say start with the personal account, because you perhaps have more brand freedom in terms of what you can post, in terms of relatability. But as it may be more professional because of the people that you are marketing it to, I would go straight for B2B. So start with the business account.
Do you want to do for
No, I was just saying, you do a lot of personal, don't you?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, I would say 90% of the content we put out as a business is on my personal page and about 10% on our brand page, similar to what you were saying. Our company page is like boring things like blogs, awards, vote for us in this, that, updates, and sometimes reposting things that I'll post on my personal page, but my personal page has a much bigger following than our company page. I think the reason we try and get followers on our company page is more like validation, right? If you come across the company page and it only has 50 followers, you're like, oh, they're a nothing company. But at the same time, and this comes to something Christina said around quality versus quantity, it's like, I've invited all of my friends and family and all of my employees' friends and family to follow our company page. But now on LinkedIn, when you go on a company page, it says followed by. So there's nothing more powerful than when a CTO in my industry lands on my company page and it says followed by 5 other big CTOs. So I try and, as part of our content strategy, you get 250 invites a week to your company, or a month to your company page, and they reset. Every month I factor in an hour and I just invite everyone in the industry that I've connected with that month, not immediately, 30 days after I've connected with them, I invite them to the company page. There's a bit of data towards it.
I'll just go to you because you're closer. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, ladies, for the very informative session. I think my question is, I think we can all agree that personal branding is very important to your business, but also at what point do you kind of start, separating the two such that your business is not too reliant on your personal branding, such that at least the business can run with or without you. But yeah, thank you very much.
I literally said this day ago, if I got hit by a bus, Slip would die tomorrow. I think the reality is it won't. And until your business is at the point where it can function without you, I wouldn't even think about it. I would say as a founder-led brand, whether that's B2B or B2C, your business shouldn't be able to function without you I would say for the first 5 years. Like, that might be a bit dramatic. And it all depends on what your intention is with the business. Like, is this your business because you want to just set something up and then move on to your next? Or is it something that you're willing to dedicate the next 5-10 years of your life to? There is a part of me that worries that I don't have an identity outside of my business. And if it all failed, like, I'd probably move to Australia and change my phone number and maybe my name too. It'll be the first time I actually decide to change my name after I get married. But I do worry about it sometimes from an identity crisis perspective. Like, who am I without Slip? But then who is Slip without me? And actually that's the flip of it.
Yeah, like I 100% agree with that. I think for me, like, you are the business for a long time in terms of sales. People are buying from you. People are like learning about what you do through your own eyes and your own voice. The more difficult thing for me was like, what's the difference between the Husmus voice and Sarah's voice? And quite frankly, they're one and the same. I'm just like, look, admit it. Like, I've built this company pretty much in my own image, so why am I then trying to drive myself insane over who's speaking? Is it Sarah or is it Husmus? Right now, we're pretty much the same. I did go through the whole, what's the difference? And if it doesn't work, like, who am I? The answer to that was children. Now I'm like, okay, well, I have something else outside of the business. So now I have a son. I don't. Well, there's a little bit of separation there, but don't spend too much time worrying about it. It's a long road, and it's a good place to be in if you're thinking about, oh, well, exiting the business, I'm going to separate myself. I think once someone hands me a very big check for it, then I'm like,
then you start thinking about it.
Yeah. Anyone else?
But if you are worried about it, so I'm gonna go on the opposite side. If you are worried about it, and like a lot of founders, when they're starting their business, they're not thinking about their exit strategy. They're not thinking about their succession planning, but it's important to do, right? You can't put all of your eggs in one basket. So like when you're building your personal brand at whatever company you're building, I would bring people along for that journey, right? So think about who else internally that has a voice, has a perspective, can help build that company rather than it just being hinged on one individual. And this is really common for me working with like corporate enterprises. So I'm rarely building a personal brand just for the CEO. I'm also helping their CMO, their CHRO, their CFO, all the heads of the departments together, because like you say, well, what if the CEO drops out? And then you've built this entire personal brand strategy on this individual. And then your like engagement metrics suffer. So think about when you're building your personal brand, who else could be building their personal brand with you, and bring them along in that journey.
Just have something quickly to say. So this may not fit into the business that you're in or considering, but something that came to mind is on TikTok, there's this page, there's this guy who stops people on the street and says, so what do you do for a living?
Oh, Khan.
Khan.
I love Khan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what is that brand? That brand is he shares other people's stories. So he's usually behind the scenes, and this is a strategy that can work depending, again, on the market that you're in. But I feel like if you lean into sharing other people's stories or be in the voice or the platform where they can share their stories, then that kind of takes, you can take a tad bit of a backseat because you're known as that amplifier.
Love that.
All right, hi guys. Thank you so much for your presentation. I think my question might be more directed towards Christina. And it's around, you mentioned a lot about metrics and how you can track engagement and build on that. So my question is around what social media tools you would recommend? I think you mentioned Hootsuite, but for more people who just post individually, what tools would you advise? And do you separate it based on like short written content, articles? How do you build strategy around that? And does that also apply to video as well?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different social management tools out there. I am a Hootsuite partner, so that's why I like promote Hootsuite. It has like different levels if you're just like one individual versus like a team level. So you can find different levels, and you can find that in any social management platform. So I would recommend getting that if you are putting out a certain volume of content. If you're not putting out like a certain volume of content, then there's native schedulers in LinkedIn's platform that you can use, right? So you can just like pre-schedule your posts up to 3 months and use that native scheduler, and you can use the native analytics tools within there. So say you're not at like a social sophistication yet to like warrant an investment in a social management tool, that would be kind of my best bet for doing that. But then once you get to a certain sophistication, then you can monitor the best times to publish, get like hyper specific on best days to publish. You're able to see that kind of like long-term growth mindset to building your personal brand rather than just like posting and ghosting. And then was there a second part of that question that I missed?
I think the second part was about like how you schedule that. I asked about if you separate it between like short written content
yes.
versus articles versus videos. Do you separate it or just
I
have
do,
to?
yeah. So I tag every piece of content that I put out there. So I'll tag it by the content type, and then I'll also, so article, video, text, image base, and then I'll also tag it by the campaign that I have it under. So I'll have it under a specific content pillar or a specific topic. And then I'll do like quarterly or in some client cases, monthly reports for them where we're looking at, okay, this founder, we're seeing a higher engagement with video that also has a humor-based approach. And then we'll look at, okay, well, maybe the written posts where there's vulnerability is also performing well. So having a social management tool can get you able to do that like more data-driven approach to your personal brand where you're like actually making meaningful decisions about what you put out there and what you don't, because like Tash and Sarah said, like they're very busy, they don't have a lot of time. So like what is valuable is like your time. So if you can save time by being more data-driven in your approach, that's money, right?
Okay, we'll take 2 more questions.
I did actually have 2 questions, but because there's 2 more, I'll try and choose one and then maybe ask you guys afterwards if you're sticking around. I'm actually going to ask the one that came up second, but when it was mentioned about the person on TikTok who goes around and asks, what do you do for a living? That brought up something. So when I look at something that I do, without getting too much into it, I do a similar thing where I do those kind of street interviews. And I rely on their answers and doing the editing to bring out the messages that ultimately support the brand that I'm trying to build around the business. But what I don't do is then create versions of me reinforcing some of the ideas, or that, like, my brand is ultimately built off my podcast guests or the street interviews that I do, and not me unless I've taken a clip of what I've said. Do I need, or should I facilitate those with also me then being the driver of, I don't know, maybe like once a week I do like pick the key point of what I've learned and do that? Or do you think I can rely on those to deliver the message?
So my response to that, oh my God, it's loud. My response to that would be you still need to be positioned as an authority. Now, the fact that you do street interviews, that gives you a lot of like leeway to again be kind of behind the scenes and not rely heavily on you being in the front seat, but you still need to be an authority. You still need to be seen, and people are interested in the mind behind the brand and the business. So I would definitely recommend that at least once a week you do like a collation of this is like, I guess, the feedback that we got from the street interviews or whatever it might be. But getting your face, getting your opinions, getting your thoughts out there is going to be important for you. And not only in the context of personal brand for the market that you're selling to, but also in the context of personal brand for your counterparts within the space as well. Like, I think Tashi kind of leaned on it to say, like, if a CTO sees that they're following Slip and another CTO sees that they're following Slip, it's about credibility, because that's how you build trust over time. So before people actually meet you in person, they have an idea about you because other people know you. So please don't completely hide, come out from the shadows, and yeah, lean into what you already have.
And behind the scenes content, like it's some great content on TikTok. Like all I do is watch behind the scenes content. Like I want to know what founders are up to, like when they're not running their business, or like how they're operating, right? Yeah. No, you don't want to know that. Yeah,
That's what we like.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's not, yeah, exactly. It's like calling up, like Tasha telling me, like Tasha and I know each other. It's like, yeah, it's just like calling up your friends and like, do you know what happened to me today? Like, no one needs to hear that.
Well, I will say I talk to the LinkedIn editorial team pretty regularly, and what they've told me is that they want more of that content. So they're going to be pushing it in the algorithm. So if we, like I was saying before, if we lean into what the algorithms are wanting us to do, and we lean into the platform nuances, we can succeed, right? But if we're going against it and we're saying like, okay, no, that's not for me, then our views might get a little suppressed. But if we're leaning into our audience, we're leaning into the platforms, that's where we're going to be successful. And like I do day in the life stuff all the time on TikTok, all the time. And it is some of my best performing content. And it doesn't have to be super, super behind the scenes. Like I'm not sharing a ton of like personal information, but I'm sharing, okay, well, I'm brand new to London as a Canadian, how I'm building my network here, how I'm building community here, what events I'm going to, who I've talked to, interesting conversations, and that can be the behind the scenes. Like it doesn't have to be super vulnerable, mom type information. Yeah.
It just comes down to who your audience is, right? If you're trying to get to the everyday, if you're trying to get to the everyday consumer, then I completely agree and I completely get that. But like for me, I'm like, if I don't care unless you're in a nice way possible, like it's amazing that I have, when I'm like scrolling through the likes on my posts, also like feel free to follow me and like my post, like with pleasure. But like when I'm scrolling through, like I did a big post today about something in New York. Like when I get home tonight, all I'll look at is which of my ICP, my ideal customers, liked my post. I don't care about like my dad's cousin and, you know, my friend from primary school. Like it's nice and it's supportive. All I care about is the people in my audience liking that post to show that it had the impact. So all of this advice just completely depends on your audience.
100%. And we'll just like quickly say that, to be honest, sometimes I do all of my posts because I'm looking for one guy. Like I'm like, I need this person to sign a deal. So I'm just gonna post a whole month circling around the things that this particular person like. So it could be 100 million impressions. I don't care. Did the person that I was trying to talk to, did they look at the message, and will they as a result respond to my email? That's
I sometimes just tag them.
Like literally, like I either tag them myself, or I'm just like, oh, by the way, did you see this post? Like, or I get someone that knows them to just be like, just share it, just share it, just cause.
Fantastic. Okay, we have time for one more question and a short answer, and we
Okay, no, you guys, absolutely well done. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I can see you guys are having fun doing it as well. Question, so LinkedIn is my jam. I'm literally sleeping and waking up on there. I just enjoy it, so it's not like work to me. But I also do newsletters, and I was just curious about what you guys think. So for context, I run a startup advisory firm, advising startups, accelerated VCs. And I find that because it's a service-based business, on top of social media, people also want to read about things you're doing, client testimonials, successes. And so I send out like newsletters every Monday morning, right? But I guess I wanted to hear from you guys if you found any successes with newsletters, if you do them, if you think they're helpful, just to get a bit more context from anyone on the team.
So newsletters are, and the email channel is my biggest channel. That's usually where I do the most of my sharing of my business and stuff, and I just make videos and just share them literally via email. So for me, that's my primary.
I've never used them. You've now inspired me to go and have a look at them. I don't read any either, so maybe that's why I've not. As in like newsletters on LinkedIn, but also like other emails. I don't really read them, so maybe that's why I haven't. Like we've questioned in the past, like, do we just have a generic mailing list for people that are just interested in what we're doing to like see what we're up to? And to be just totally honest, we just don't have the time to create interesting content. I just do like one investor report a quarter, and that's all I have time for. So I'll look into newsletters.
I don't use them, but I know a friend that does use them too. So he does TikTok short form, and he built his community organically through that. And the call to action is link in my bio, join the newsletter. And he also posts that on LinkedIn as well. So what he does is he uses the newsletter to cater to that B2C channel. And then also post like, for example, if you're interested in like applying for a role for his B2B clients, that's where everything lives in the newsletter essentially. But that's all I have for you.
I'll provide like a data-driven perspective to that. If you look up the organization Work, W-A-R-K, they have a lot of marketing research around omni-channel amplification. And statistically, it is shown if you do have email in tandem with social media, you will have that multiplier effect. So, but like they were saying, if you don't have the time and resources, then you have to kind of bet big on specific channels. But I would say like the more channels that you are kind of investing in, you're also protecting yourself if they go under, right? So like we saw the downfall of, well, the continued downfall of X that's happening right now. And a lot of creators are migrating off that platform. If they didn't have owned spaces like newsletters, how would they get people to continue to follow them and engage with them? So although I'm like a big, obviously run a social media agency, I'm big on social, I come from running 20-person marketing teams where I've seen the value of omni-channel marketing, right? And using channels in tandem to have that amplification effect. But check that research group called Work, and they have a lot of studies on how channels work in tandem with one another.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. So many golden nuggets. I'm really happy that we recorded this because I'm going to watch it back and take some notes. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Big round of applause to Christina, Audit, Tash, Sarah. Thank you very much.